Good morning, my friends. How are you? Please let me know if you can hear me clearly. I decided not to wear the headphones today and to test this broadcast or this Facebook Live without the headphones. Uh, just easier for me. So let me know if you can hear me clearly. And today we continue our exploration on everyday immortality. Juliana Camina says hello from Romania. Hi, Juliana. Joe John, hi from Northern California. Charlotte Jordan says hello. Mirjana says hi from East Europe. So thank you all. Just let me know if you can hear me loud and clear. Zoe says she can hear loud and clear. So thank you. I think we're all set. I can continue with the discussions. Remember, we've spoken in the past about spiritual solutions for existential anxiety, the fear of death, and then I did a whole series on the mystery of death as ongoing transformation. And now I am doing a new series related, which is everyday immortality. And so what I'm saying is, if you can shift your internal reference point to pure consciousness, which is the source of every experience and also the source of every state that consciousness adopts, either as a sensation or an image or a perception or a thought or an emotion or a choice. Once you understand that, and once you understand that your body, your mind, and the physical world is a projection of that conditioned pure consciousness as a conditioned soul, if you will, a monad of consciousness, that then, depending on its state of development, it projects as the experience of everyday reality, including the reality of the mind, the reality of the conditioned mind, of course, the fragmented, conditioned ego mind, the reality of the changing experience of the body, and the reality of the changing experience of the world. All of that is happening because there's a conscious being in the background. And that conscious being is you. But that you is also conditioned by past experience and interpretation of past experience. And that you therefore has memory, imagination, desire, aspirations, stories. And that you wants to live out its story. That you also gets attached, that particular you also gets attached to a particular story, not knowing that there are infinite stories for every story, infinite thoughts for every thought, infinite emotions for every emotions, infinite experiences for every experience. So pure consciousness is timeless, non-local, infinite, formless, but it modifies itself to endless storytelling. And then it projects the story as the body, mind, and world experience in this particular waking state of consciousness. And as we've discussed before, states of consciousness determine experience, determine knowledge, determine biology, determine how the brain functions. So everything changes when the state of consciousness changes and when it creates a new story. And all of this is a learned phenomenon. So, when you were born, shortly after you became aware, you learned A, B, C, D, E, F, G. We all can remember that song, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, without remembering when we actually learned it. But that A, B, C, D, E, F, G then became the basis for words. Words became the basis of sentences. That became the basis of paragraphs, chapters, stories, epics. You are a mythical being living out an epic. And you think this is the only one. But there are infinite others. And you are the infinite storyteller, the infinite map maker, the infinite reality projector. You are the infinite reality projector. So now we are saying that if you can shift from states of consciousness to the source of those states of consciousness, which is pure consciousness, through transcendence, through awareness of awareness, that'll be your ticket to freedom, because then you can either choose to identify with this provisional story, that provisional story, no story, infinite stories, cosmic adventure through cosmic time without going anywhere, because all you're doing is ceaselessly and unendingly changing states of being. Every thought you have is a change of state, if it's a new thought. Every emotion you have is a change of state, even if it's an old emotion. Every perception that you interpret is a change of state. So we're changing states ceaselessly and now. But then what we do is we create stories around those states. And we live out those stories. We call it life. That's the cosmic wheel, the soul's journey through cosmic time. Karma, memory, desire, imagination, karma, recycling and evolving at the same time. Recycling, everything recycles, energy, information, matter, consciousness, but everything also evolves through higher levels of creativity, vision, imagination, and then actualization into the experience. So today I am going to read a little bit to you from one of my books, The Way of the Wizard, where Merlin, the great wizard, is teaching King Arthur, who represents the ego intellectual mind and represents the wizard, who says that if you want to live out the experience of everyday immortality, and then today we do lesson 2. And the 2 principles of lesson 2, the first is the return of the magical can only happen with the return of innocence. Innocence means give up all stories first. When you give up all stories, what happens? You have curiosity, wonder, you're no longer jaded, you have new imagination, new intuition, new access to creativity. And giving up the story also means surrendering to the wisdom of uncertainty, because uncertainty is a story that you're attached to. That's it. So the return of the magical can only happen with the return of innocence. And the second principle in today's lesson, the essence of the wizard, Guru, Ein Sof, Allah, Brahman, pure consciousness, the essence of that wizard is transformation. Continued and endless transformation. Continued and endless transformation. So let me read from my notes from the Wizard. Innocence is our natural state before it becomes covered over. What covers it over is self-image, not self-image, ego. When we look at ourselves, even when we're trying to be completely honest, we see an image built up over many years in layers that are complexly woven together. The lines and wrinkles that develop in a person's face tell the story of past happiness and sadness, triumph and defeat, ideals and experiences. It is almost impossible to see anything else. The wizard, the seer, the sage, the rishi, sees herself everywhere, sees himself or herself everywhere, because she looks and the sight is innocent, not jaded. It is unclouded by judgments, labels and definitions. A wizard still knows that she has an ego and a self-image, but she is not distracted by these things. She sees them against the backdrop of the totality, the whole context of life. Ego is also that which you call I or me or mine. It is your singular point of view. In innocence, this point of view is pure, like a clear lens. But without innocence, the ego's focus is extremely distorting. If you think you know something, including yourself, you're actually seeing your judgments and labels. You don't know yourself till you start asking, what am I? Who am I? The simplest words we use to describe each other, such as friend, family, stranger, are loaded with judgments. The enormous gulf in meaning between a friend and a stranger, for example, is filled with judgment. A friend is treated one way, an enemy another way. Even if we do not bring these judgments to the surface, they cloud our vision like dust obscuring a mirror. Because he has no labels for things, the wizard sees them afresh. There is no dust on the lens, so the world sparkles with newness. The world sparkles with newness. It's sparkling right now. The same faint song is heard in everything. Behold, that's me. That's a symbolic expression of me. God could be defined as someone who looks around and sees only him or herself in all directions. Insofar as we are created in God's image, our world is also a looking glass. My friend George Harrison had a lyric, in the room of mirrors, you can see for miles. And everything there is yourself in disguise. Everything there is yourself in disguise. So I have a message here from someone who says they have this book in Farsi. Wonderful. So what a nice, nice expression there, huh? So when we think of ourselves as persons, think of ourselves as mortals. When we think of ourselves as witnessing awareness, then we have shifted to our timeless, immortal self. That is what it means to live everyday immortality. Mortals found this wizardly viewpoint very strange, for their interest was drawn in an entirely different direction. They looked outward and were fascinated by things, and whatever thing they saw, they craved to name and then use it. Remember, once we start ABCD, then we start naming everything. Names had to be given to all the birds and beasts. Plants were to be grown for food or pleasure. Lands existed to be explored and conquered. But the seer, the wizard, shows no interest in any of this. Seers often do not know the names for the most ordinary things like oak trees, fallow deer, or the constellations. However, seers who live everyday immortality can look at a gnarled oak, a feeding doe, or the night sky for hours, and every moment of contemplation would be all-absorbing. So mortals want to share this kind of rapt attention, but when asked the secret of how to look at the world fresh, the seer can only say, you lack innocence. Having labeled a thing, you no longer see that thing, you see a label instead. This was easy enough to illustrate. If two stranger knights met in the forest, they immediately searched for the emblem or pennant that told them whether the other was a friend or a foe. The instant the sign was spied, the knights could act, but only then. A friend could be embraced, welcomed to the feast, invited to tell stories. A foe could only be fought with, just because of a symbol. Your ego is your symbol. And through that, you see symbolically yourself, the sacred and the profane, the divine and the diabolical. This obsession to label things, Merlin said, was the activity of mind, pure and simple. Mind cannot react without a label. We carry millions of labels in our heads, and our minds can run through these labels with lightning swiftness. The speed of the mind is dazzling, but the speed does not save us from staleness. Whatever you can think about, you have already experienced. And whatever you have already experienced, you're going to grow tired of. So think about this. Don't you want to look with fresh eyes? Don't you want to step out of the river of conditioning and memory and see the world as if for the first time? And when you do that, your vision will be holy. It will be healed. It will be sacred. So, what's going on? Endless transformation is going on. The world is vast, and nature is full of fascinating aspects and transformations. And the way you can live everyday immortality is for you to know that if you look at the world with fresh eyes, with innocence, then nothing will be stale or boring. The infinity of things out there can't be denied. But boredom is a common complaint among mortals. Why? Why? Because mortals, as persons, do not see change, transformation, evolution, and the shifting of states of consciousness that is happening ceaselessly and now. If you notice that, then by bringing that change of state to your conscious awareness, you can participate in creating any story, any loka, any experience, any relationship, any emergent property that is part of the evolution of the universe. However, if you identify and look through the same old tired eyes, you cannot bring the same stale self to the world and expect the world to be new for you. To see the world anew, you have to look with fresh eyes. And fresh eyes means returning to the state of wonder, to the state of mystery, to the state of awe, to the state of love, to the state of joy, to the state of compassion, to the state of being, which is prior to feeling, which is prior to thinking, which is prior to imagining. Settle into the state. Look at the world through the eyes of wonder, freshness, and then ask yourself, what do I really want? What is my real purpose? What can I create as an experience that never existed before? So let me read to you a little poem that comes from the great sage seer, the embodiment of the Rishi, and that is my favorite poet, Rabindranath Tagore. So let me read this poem. The morning sea of silence broke into ripples of bird songs, and the flowers were all merry by the roadside, and the wealth of gold was scattered through the rift of the clouds, while we busily went on our way and paid no heed. We sang no glad songs, nor did we play. Nor did we play when the essence of existence is play. Every child comes to this world wanting to play, because the universe is the play of the infinite. We sang no glad songs, nor did we play. We went not to the village for barter. We spoke not a word, nor did we smile. We lingered not on the way. We just hurried, quickened our pace more and more as time sped by. The sun rose to the mid-sky, and the doves cooed in the shade. Withered leaves danced and whirled in the hot air of noon. The shepherd boy drowsed and dreamed in the shadow of the banyan tree, and I lay myself down by the water and stretched my tired limbs on the grass. My companions laughed at me in scorn. They held their heads high and hurried on. They were in a rush to get somewhere. They never looked back, nor did they rest. They vanished in the distant blue haze. They crossed many meadows and hills and passed through strange, faraway countries. All honor to you, heroic host of the interminable path. Mockery and reproach pricked me to rise, but found no response in me. I gave myself up for lost in the depth of a glad humiliation, in the shadow of a dim delight. In the shadow of a dim delight. The repose of the sun-embroidered green gloom slowly spread over my heart. I forgot for what I had traveled, and I surrendered my mind without struggle to the maze of shadows and songs. At last, when I woke up from my slumber and opened my eyes, I saw the infinite standing by me, flooding my sleep with its smile. How I had feared that the path was long and wearisome, and the struggle to reach myself, my infinite self, was hard. Not true. All I had to do is return and look at the eyes, through the eyes of the infinite, at everything that was finite. Look with the eyes of the infinite at everything that is finite, and you will discover the infinite in every finite experience. So, today's lesson, the return of the magical can only happen with the return of innocence. The essence of the wizard is endless transformation. Endless transformation, change of state. Endless change of state. Endless change of state. Well, what's the mantra? The mantra is innocence. Let's choose a mantra which is so simple and so innocent. It's the mantra of the sound of breath. Aham, 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 aham. Somebody asked, Divya, are those poems from Gitanjali? Yeah, some of them are from Gitanjali. The one I read today was from Gitanjali. Okay, see you tomorrow.